I want you to start by thinking of something evil that you've done, something that might even still be bothering you. And I know you're a smart audience with an interest in philosophy, but don't worry about defining evil for now. Just think about something you did that you knew or now believe is wrong. After you have this action in mind, try breaking down your motivations for doing such an act. What did you actually gain, and more specifically, what did you hope to gain? Now, I'm not a gambling man, but I would bet money that your motivations were not found in the act itself. Here's what I mean by that. Let's look at a bank robber. Not saying you all are bank robbers or anything, but this bank robber also committed an evil act. But why did he do that? Did he rob the bank for its own sake? In other words, did he rob the bank in order to rob the bank? Probably not. In actuality, the bank robber robbed the bank, obviously, for the money. Applying this to your situation, I'm assuming that, like the bank robber, you didn't commit this deed because of the act itself, but because of some further end. I don't want to make assumptions about you personally, so let's just think about a couple popular examples. Someone doesn't cheat for the sake of cheating, they cheat for the sake of the romantic or sexual gratification that comes from cheating. Someone doesn't lie for the sake of lying, they lie so as to appear good in the eyes of someone else. Likewise, someone doesn't cut you off in traffic when you're on your way to see the new 007 movie,
making you late, which is a drag because you want to show up to the theater early so you don't miss any important.
You get the point. Now, motives may not justify an evil act, but there's at least some explanation. I mean, don't you hate it in the movies when the villains lack a motivation for doing an evil deed? Aren't some of the best film villains also the ones with well fleshed out motivations? Think of Vincent from Collateral, Daniel Plainview from There Will Be Blood, or John Doe from Seven. I highly recommend the channel The Vile Eye, which looks at some of these famous movie villains and their motivations. Yeah, I'm sure the near 300,000 subscriber channel needs a shout out from me. Speaking of which, feel free to subscribe. But what if there was no external motivation? Are you doing the act for the act's sake? And if so, what is that like? Well, today we're going to be looking at a small story from Saint Augustine's Confessions, which address these questions and lead to a larger discussion about the motivations of evil. Hello and welcome back to Philosophy Tunes. Today we're going to be looking at the pear tree incident from Saint Augustine's Confessions. I'll be using the Maria Bolding translation, which I really like a lot. An Amazon affiliate link for it will be below. So let's get right into it. So Augustine is in his adolescence at this time, and his relationship with God is not very saintly. He and his bros are just chillin' when all of a sudden this happens. Close to our vineyard there was a pear tree laden with fruit. The fruit was not enticing, either in appearance or in flavor. We nasty lads went there to shake down the fruit and carry it off at dead of night, after prolonging our games out of doors until that late hour according to our abominable custom. We took enormous quantities, not to feast on ourselves but perhaps to throw to the pigs. We did eat a few, but that was not our motive. We derived pleasure from the deed simply because it was forbidden. So he's stealing the pears from the tree not to actually enjoy the fruits of his labor, no pun intended, but rather to take pleasure simply in doing something forbidden. Now before you condemn this nasty lad in his own words, I'm stealing that expression by the way, that's my new channel name, The Nasty Lad. Before you condemn him, at least acknowledge that there is some appeal in the forbidden fruit. I mean, when you're told that you can't do something, doesn't that only make you want to do it more, regardless of what that thing actually is? And since our nasty lad Augustine was a Christian saint, we gotta mention the interesting parallels to this act and the original sin in the Garden of Eden. I'm pretty sure Augustine recognized this too, which is why he's in such despair over this act later on in his life. I was in love with my own ruin, in love with decay, not with a thing for which I was falling into decay, but with decay itself. For I was depraved in soul, and I leapt down from your strong support into destruction, hungering not for some advantage to be gained by the foul deed, but for the foulness of it. So, as I understand it, it seems like these evil acts done for the sake of the evil itself is more blameworthy than if it were done to achieve some further end. Sure, it's a sin to steal, but it's a different situation to love the money you get from stealing than to love the sin itself. So here comes my law school knowledge again. Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes actually commented on the pear tree incident. Rum thing to see a man making a mountain out of robbing a pear tree in his teens. Side note, does anyone still say rum thing? To respond to Justice Holmes, the significance of this event is found, as discussed earlier, in the lack of motive except for that of solely sin. Now, this isn't the end of the story. Augustine goes through a number of different motives to attempt to explain his crimes, but finds little success. But before he finally accepts that this was 100% done without any interest in outside motivation, he acknowledges that social context. And yet, as I recall my state of mind at the time, I would not have done it alone. I most certainly would not have done it alone. It follows then that I also love the camaraderie with my fellow thieves. Now Augustine expresses his confusion here. Why does this social context even matter? He knows he wouldn't have done this act by himself, so why does the fact that he's doing it with his friends matter? Well, I don't think Augustine gives a clear answer, but we could think of some modern day explanations. Peer pressure, for example, can be extremely motivating. Also, just think about the joy you get when you experience something with friends rather than just by yourself. Whether it's a movie or travel or even eating, the experience is improved by the presence of another person. So what are the takeaways here? How can we apply this to our lives? I'd say this excerpt calls for us to heavily scrutinize any evil act we're about to do without first really thinking about our motivations. We could all be impulsive sometimes, but taking a moment to stop and think about our actions might prevent us from doing evil, if those motivations are no longer super appealing. Furthermore, be wary of evil acts you have a weird inclination towards in the absence of a clear motivation. And finally, don't give in to peer pressure. I know we all learned about this in elementary school, but you know, forge your own path. You don't gotta follow the crowd, you're super awesome in your own way. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our video. Let me know any takeaways you got in the comments below. If you didn't get any takeaways, then let me know so I could fine-tune these videos. If you found any value out of this video, then hit the like button, and if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe and bell button. And with that, I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day.